My name is Susan Johnson. At the age of 35, I married my current husband, Noah, but he had a stepdaughter, Kate. Half a year after we got married, we started living with my in-laws. Since then, my mother-in-law began to harass me. Kate also started treating me like trash. Why are my things? When I returned from shopping, I found my belongings thrown in the trash. Not understanding why, I stood there dazed, and then felt someone behind me. You wouldn't leave unless I do this, right? Dad and Grandma are fed up with you. Why don't you leave quietly? There's no place for you in this house. Kate, did you do this? When I asked, Kate nodded proudly, as if she had one. Kate never really liked me from the beginning of our marriage. Now, she is a 16-year-old high school student. It might be a rebellious phase due to Sher's age, but it was too much. At the beginning of our marriage, we hardly spoke, but as we got used to each other, she began to treat me like trash. You're just a parasite living off my father. I can't even introduce a woman like you as my mother. If only you were as beautiful as my friend's mother. Abusive language became normal, and sometimes she even poured garbage over my head. At first, my husband would scold her, but gradually he started looking down on me too. Then, my mother-in-law became more aggressive in her harassment, and I lost confidence in myself day by day. Stress caused me insomnia, and I even started seeing a doctor for it. Talking to my husband was useless, as he wouldn't take my side, so I kept it all to myself. I still lived with the family because, despite not being blood-related, I felt affection for Kate. But seeing my belongings thrown away in the trash, something inside me broke. As I stood there in shock, Kate spoke. When are you going to leave? Now that your stuff is gone, you can leave right away, right? But how will the three of you manage without me? I'll be fine with Dad around. Still going to leech off us? Leeching! I thought I was trying hard for all three of you. How so? Doing household chores is something anyone can do. I could do what you do. So, Kate, you're saying it's okay if I leave? That's what I'm saying. Seeing your face every day is stressful. Don't show your ugly face around here. Saying that, Kate threw a trash bag at me. I couldn't just divorce easily. But I decided to talk to my husband about it. However, he just laughed it off. Well, Kate's right. You've become pretty ugly since we got married, and yeah, you're just trash. Kate's pretty funny, though, doing stuff like this. Your stuff was in the way anyway, it's good he threw it out. What are you talking about? My work stuff was in there. If I can't work, the three of us can't make it. What? You saying my earnings aren't good enough? My husband looked displeased at my words. He's got nothing but pride. And it's a problem if you heard it. I think you're working hard too. But realistically, we can't live without my income. Shut up. Just quietly do your housework and job. Talking to you is just irritating, so be quiet. What's with that tone? I got angry at his words, and we ended up arguing. Which eventually led to talk of divorce. Let's divorce then. Sign here. Are you sure? I don't care. It makes no difference whether you're here or not. Eventually, we decided to divorce. Thinking I had to tell Kate, I called her to say I had something important to discuss. When I revealed the divorce, Kate punched the air in joy. So I can finally get rid of you? When are you leaving? Next week. Are you okay with staying with your dad, Kate? Obviously. Who would want to live with a stranger? I never once thought of you as my mother. I was hurt by Kate's words, but it couldn't be helped. A week later, as promised, I left the house. I didn't tell my ex-husband and Kate my new address. Since leaving them, I've been living a mentally stable life. My insomnia cured naturally, and work became more productive. Life was going smoothly. Months after the divorce, Kate suddenly showed up at my house. Mom! Something's wrong at home. Who are you? Huh? Kate looked at me incredulously. I had always taken her words to heart. But I didn't need to anymore. I answered coldly. Who, you haven't forgotten, have you? Well, yeah, but why are you here all of a sudden? The house is in trouble. Help me, Mom. Just so you know, I'm not your mother anymore. You said you didn't need trash like me, right? I'm sorry about that, but I really need your help. Please, just listen. Apparently, she found out my address by asking relatives. I was a bit angry at the relatives for telling her. Kate looked desperate when she came to the house. Reluctantly, I let her in for a talk. So, what's this about? Our home is in a bad state. Dad is terrible. With that, Kate began to cry uncontrollably in front of me. I felt no pity for her at that moment. I just stared at her with an impassive face, my gaze as cold as ice. Kate looked a bit scared. Mom! How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not your mother anymore. Could you at least call me Susan? I don't want you to call me Mom. Why are you being so cold? You used to be kind. I had been holding back all this time. Could you have endured it if you were in my place? You should know, I was really hurt too. I'm sorry. Kate's tone, so different from her usual arrogance, was small and apologetic. I think it was the first time she had ever apologized to me. She must be really desperate. But I had no intention of helping her. You might be having a hard time, but I'm a stranger now. I have no obligation to help. We were never really mother and daughter to begin with. I don't want to waste my time on pointless matters. Can you leave, please? As I said this, Kate came over and grabbed my arm. Don't say that. Right now, you're all I have. No, Susan is all I have. Dad is really awful. Then, without being asked, she started telling me about what had happened after the divorce. Ever since you left, Dad started bringing young women home, flashy young women from nightclubs. He's cold to me, and he's always with her instead of me. They even go on trips together on weekends. Did you know Dad was cheating on you? Yes, I knew. We fought about it several times. Dad had been cheating for over a year. That long ago. Why didn't you divorce? I thought it would be too hard on you, Kate. I could see you struggling. I had realized about half a year ago that my ex-husband was cheating. I accidentally saw him shopping happily with a young woman I didn't know. After that, I secretly hired a detective to investigate his infidelity. It turned out he was heavily spending on a 25-year-old woman he met at a nightclub. They were physically involved too, and when I confronted him, he admitted it without excuses. He even blamed the affair on me. I cheated because you lost your charm. Unlike you, Natalie is beautiful and has a great figure, and she's amazing at night. If you were just a little prettier and more charming, I wouldn't have needed to go to another woman. Maybe I did stop caring about my looks a bit after we got married, but that's no excuse to cheat, right? If you want to be loved by me, act more feminine. Then I'll break it off with Natalie. After I learned about my ex-husband's affair, my love for him naturally faded. I thought about leaving right away, but I couldn't make that step because of Kate's education. Kate was attending a top private school, keeping her grades at the top. She planned to study a science major in college, which costs a lot more than the arts. She was working hard, and I wanted to support her. But it seems she's been unable to lead a proper life since our divorce. After you left, Susan, there's been no one to cook. I've been living on convenience store food and instant noodles almost every day. Recently, Dad said we're out of money and told me to make do with one meal a day. Yet he and that woman live lavishly. Indeed, Kate had lost a lot of weight since I last saw her. Her complexion was bad, her skin rough, and her clothes were wrinkled. Kate probably hasn't been able to do laundry properly, as she used to rely on me for household chores. Since I left, it seems she's had to handle all the household work. And there was another change in the house. Actually, Grandma's health has gotten worse, and she's almost better than now. Dad says he doesn't want to waste money, so he's left all the caregiving to me. Because of that, I can't study, and my grades have dropped. My ex-mother-in-law had always been in poor health when I lived with them. I started living with my in-laws to keep an eye on her health. But she never thanked me, not even once. Instead, she would throw the food I cooked and constantly berate me every time we met. Looking back, I never want to return to that life. I think I endured a lot. While she never complained about Kate, She seemed to be having a hard time with the caregiving. I can't keep taking care of Grandma forever. I have my own life, you know? Dad is just terrible, only thinking about himself. But you chose to stay with Dad, didn't you? It's hard for me to do anything about it. Dad told me to give up on going to college. I've always worked hard in my studies, isn't that terrible? I think you've worked hard, but if Dad says it's impossible, maybe you have no choice but to give up. I can't just give up like that. And Dad even said I'm too expensive to keep around and told me to leave. What are you going to do about Grandma then? She'll have to go to a facility. Dad said it's much cheaper than paying for my college tuition. You're into sciences, and the college you want to attend is private. I think it's hard for Dad to come up with the money. But I can't just give up. I've worked so hard until now. Saying this, Kate began to cry bitterly. I felt a bit sorry for her, but this was the life she chose. There's nothing I can do. Then, looking around the house, Kate asked me something. I've always wondered, how can you afford to live in such a big house? Weren't you a part-time worker, Susan? Actually, that's not true. Huh? I run a real estate company. This property is one of the many I own. A president? I never heard anything like that. I kept it a secret on purpose. Your dad has to be the top dog, right? So he told me to keep quiet about me being the breadwinner. That was the case. So, all this time, you were the one paying for our living expenses. At first, he paid half, but about a year in, he stopped contributing. I've been paying for your tuition too. I never mentioned it because I didn't think it was necessary. Oh my! Kate looked surprised by the truth I revealed. I had been the president of a real estate company since the beginning of our marriage. Back then, I didn't earn much, just a little more than my ex-husband. But about 6 months in, my revenue started to soar, and now I make about $10 million a year. I never expected to be this successful. Of course, my ex-husband knew about my success. As my income grew, he became colder. And likely jealous of my success. Yet he spent my money like water. Later, I found out he was spending it on his mistress. I've already claimed alimony from both my ex-husband and his mistress. I received a lump sum payment from him after the divorce. He paid for his mistress's share too. That's probably why he's strapped for cash now. So, you're more financially stable than Dad, right? Well, I can certainly afford to live well enough. Why do you ask? Please help me. I won't ask to live with you, but I need financial support and a place to stay. Don't be ridiculous. Why should I, a stranger to you, do all that? Talking more won't change anything, so could you please leave? I don't want to waste my time. Besides, seeing you reminds me of the past. Do you really hate me that much? Kate asked, her eyes brimming with tears. I hesitated for a moment on how to respond. Well, it's true I don't like you. I wanted to care for you as my daughter when we got married, but you never saw it that way. I'm tired of it. Then Kate grabbed my arm again. I can learn to like you now. I know I've said terrible things, but we can start over. Please, help me. It seemed like Kate wasn't planning to leave until I agreed. To avoid being stuck with her, I decided to call someone. Who are you calling? Your dad. I can't have you staying here indefinitely, so I'm asking him to pick you up. Calling Dad is pointless. He prefers that woman over me. So, you plan to stay here forever? Well, I have nowhere else to go. I've been imposing on friends, but I can't live with them, right? You're the only one I have, Susan. As she said this, Kate's eyes filled with tears. Ignoring her, I began to call my ex-husband. He didn't answer at first, but after persistently calling, he finally picked up. I'm glad you finally answered. What do you want, Susan? We're strangers now, aren't we? We're divorced, so don't call me. I don't want to hear your voice. He sounded quite annoyed. I'm not calling because I want to. All right, what do you want? Can you get to the point? My ex-husband asked in a cold tone. It sounded like his mistress was there too. I could hear a woman's voice. Ignoring that, I decided to talk about Kate. Your daughter is at my house and causing trouble. She says she doesn't want to go home, so can you come pick her up? I've told her to leave, but she won't budge. Kate is there? My ex-husband muttered disinterestedly. I'm in a fix here. She's asking for help, but we're not family anymore. If you come, she might leave quietly. Can you come now? What a hassle. Right now, I'm out having dinner with Natalie. Do you want to interrupt our time together? You can go to dinner anytime, can't you? Don't joke with me. We're at a fancy steakhouse. You're not feeding Kate properly, but you're eating well yourself? So what? It's my money. Are you sure you can afford to waste it like that? Shut up. You're a stranger, stay out of it. Fine, just come and pick up Kate. I have no intention of keeping her. She's your daughter, after all. Then, my ex-husband laughingly said, if she likes you that much, why don't you take care of her? I was thinking of living alone with Natalie anyway. Kate is just in the way. How can you say your daughter is in the way? Even if I were to take care of her, I'd bill you for child support. And I'll also charge you for the money you spent without permission. Wait. My ex-husband started to panic. I was told by my ex-husband that in exchange for paying the alimony in a lump sum, he wanted me to overlook the amount of money he had spent recklessly. Initially, I wasn't convinced, but he insisted, so I reluctantly agreed. The amount he had squandered was about $60,000. Since it was an amount I could recover by working immediately, I decided to forgive it. Fine, I'll come now, just forgive the money. Remember, if you don't come today, I'll send you the bill. Got it. I gave him my address, and he agreed to come and pick her up. My new home was about a 3-hour drive from where we used to live. He finally arrived at night and was shocked at my house. You live in a place like this? Looks like you're doing well. Well, I've been living a bit more luxuriously since I don't have to spend on you three anymore. But this house is too lavish. You were making only around $200,000 a year, right? He didn't know exactly how much I was earning. I never told him on purpose. But now that we're divorced, there's no harm in telling him. I honestly told him about my current earnings. You make that much? You might not have known, but I've been working hard. Now I have a few trustworthy employees, and everything is going smoothly. He looked frustrated. Still as competitive as ever. He's stuck with just the work assigned to him in the company, so no wonder he's not getting promoted. Take care of Kate, then. Kate stood behind me, unwilling to move. It seemed she still didn't want to go back. I sighed in exasperation. Your father has come all this way to pick you up, so please go. You don't belong here. As I spoke coldly, Kate started crying with her head down. But my ex-husband had a different idea. If you're making $100 million a year, you must have money to spare, right? Then help us out. What? Why would that follow? We were a family once, right? Shouldn't you have some feelings for us? We're about to go bankrupt here. I can't even buy Natalie the things she likes anymore. If you're short on money, why don't you get more work? Your company allows side jobs, doesn't it? Don't be stupid. I'm tired enough with my regular job. Just give me the money. He raised his voice, demanding money. But I had no intention of giving him a single penny. Shouldn't you be the one paying me? Have you forgotten that I forgave $60,000 you squandered? But with $1 million in earnings, a little bit won't hurt, right? You probably don't even have a use for it. Even if I make that much, a good portion goes to taxes. And I don't have extra money to waste on you. Just take Kate and leave. I was calm in the conversation, but my ex-husband became increasingly agitated. He always gets loud and angry when something doesn't go his way. I used to be too scared to talk back, but now that we're strangers, I'm not afraid. If you keep making a scene in front of my house, I'll call the police. There's a station nearby, and they'll come quickly if I call. The police? If I tell them my ex-husband is causing a disturbance, they'll act quickly. If you don't want police trouble, it's better you leave now. Reluctantly, but not wanting to deal with the police, he gave in. Kate, let's go. He called out to her without even looking at her. Kate looked at me with a pleading gaze. You should go too. Don't ever come here again. Mom. Kate's eyes were tearful as she looked at me, but I wasn't going to help her. I kicked them out and locked the door. I don't think I'll ever see them again. I want to forget about my life with them as soon as possible, and I don't regret it at all. Since then, my ex-husband apparently broke up with his mistress quite unceremoniously. The breakup happened when she found out he actually had no money. He had boasted to her about being an elite earning $200,000 a year. But when she saw his bank balance, the truth came out. Turns out, she wasn't in love with him, but his perceived wealth. She had other men she was seeing, and she quickly moved on to another. Moreover, my ex-husband had been in debt due to his spending on the mistress. This left Kate unable to even attend school, and she had to quit her private high school. She started working at a place where even a junior high graduate could get a job. As for my former mother-in-law, the two of them couldn't take care of her, so they had to put her in a facility. They managed to scrape together the money for it by borrowing. I heard all this through acquaintances, and of course, there's been no contact from them since. As for me, my business is doing well, and I'm enjoying my peaceful single life. I'm looking forward to enjoying a luxurious solo living for a while.